Good evening and welcome to a special edition of the Savage Universe stream. I am JM and with me tonight is Ian of the Domain Gaming. How are you doing tonight, Ian?
I'm doing fine. How's everybody else doing?
Let's see. We have some people saying hello in the chats already. I know Savage Goose. It's not Thursday today. I forgot to change the date of my placard, so that one's on me. So we have you here tonight because you just wrapped up a Deadlands game on your channel. So let's start off. Let's just Ian, give us a little background on who you are, how you came to Savage Worlds, and how you started GMing streaming online.
Well, let's start off with how I got into Savage Worlds. I was actually the short of it is I was actually working on something with an Onyx Path, and they had actually hooked me up with a player named James, who absolutely adores your system. And I was, and basically he spent the next, that game went 3 months? He spent the next 3 months upselling Savage Worlds to me, specifically Deadlands.
Yeah.
As for how I kind of got into this, originally it was just me and my friends around one mic in the apartment of my living room, and we kind of just were like, hey, let's just do this. And it was just completely audio at that time, and we started noticing that people were actually somewhat interested in it. So we started actually doing something more regular and started polishing things.
So I know you've just finished your streaming side of things. Now, you were telling me beforehand that you usually take a couple of months once you wrap up a campaign. So your Deadlands game is over.
Yes.
And then you start releasing it in an edited format on your YouTube channel?
Yes, on my YouTube.
Excellent.
Usually there's not really like a specific time frame. It's usually it depends on how each session wraps up and the space in between. Specifically, I believe you can still see the playlist and you can see session 0. I generally always keep that up for the very first day until, forever. Yeah. The first session, or the first half of the first session, should go up November 15th, because we tend to keep the episodes about an hour long, because we understand people have busy lives. So we try to keep an hour so they can, not feel like they have to, oh man, it's 4 hours, blinking at the screen.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm editing a podcast that I do, an actual play podcast. And I asked all of our patrons, like, do you guys want it all in one chunk, or do you want it, cut down? And like most people were like, for audio podcasts, I want it at about 20 to 25 minutes so that I can listen to it on a drive and be done. Hour long actual plays it's a great idea, because I'm trying to get into Andy Law's Lawhammer. He's doing The Enemy Within. Mm-hmm. And they're all 4.5, 5 hours long. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot because I like Andy and I love Warhammer, but they're like 20 episodes in, and I'm doing the math in my head of how many hours I'm going to, fall down this rabbit hole on.
And on that note, for a total amount, it's going to be, I believe it's 12 episodes, because it was 6 sessions, each one about an hour each. So you're looking at roughly about 12 hours total.
Do you do any other editing in post? Like, do you add music, or do you trim it down a little bit to kind of like cut out any, like, what is your editing process?
Generally speaking, the editing process, I am my own worst enemy when it comes to editing. I am not an editor by any stretch. And, when you're my size, you wear many hats. So I generally I create an outro. The music is actually already posted in.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that. Removing breaks, removing any sort of like B-roll footage, because usually we have a start loop, a break loop, because I give everybody about like 5 to 15 minutes to, go use the restroom in the middle of it. I cut those out.
Yeah.
things like that. I try to keep. I want it to still feel like an actual game, though, so I
Right.
don't cut unless it's like a lot of needless rules chatter where somebody's bickering about rules. That I'll cut
Right.
out, but for the most part, no. You're going to see us talk about the rules, especially that player I mentioned, James. He was actually in this set. In this, I held off because he was like, "You have to let me know if you run Deadlands." I made sure to let him know.
So this was your first time running Savage Worlds and Deadlands. Let's start with Savage Worlds. What did you find that you liked coming uh, to Savage Worlds?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm also going to mention how I kind of got started into
Yeah, please
Savage
do.
Worlds specifically. I do not recommend anybody go do this as your first foray into any system, period. Um, I love the setting of another system. I don't know if you I don't know if you want me to say the
Yeah, go
name of.
for it. Yeah.
Oh, Cthulhu Tech.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love the setting. However, the original rule setting, I was not a fan of that.
That's fair.
It was essentially playing Yahtzee with dice while you're trying to play an RPG. Might work for some people, didn't work for me. My very first thing in Savage Worlds was actually ripping out that system and placing Savage Worlds in, and that's how I learned the system. Was I was actually hacking that setting to work with Savage Worlds. Um, don't recommend most people go that head first into something like that.
I love the Cthulhu Tech setting. It's got some of the darkest setting books I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
Like just darkest. If you enjoy that kind of thing, but Mecha versus Cthulhu, and Guyver suits, and I mean, it's a fun setting, and I can totally see hacking it for Savage Worlds.
Yeah, and part of that was, and then that kind of leads me into why I chose Savage Worlds was because one, it's setting agnostic, which I was on the lookout for a really good setting agnostic, and I felt like it fit the kind of pulpy action that I was imagining for my games, and that's what drew me into going ahead and being like, okay, I'm going to use Savage Worlds for this.
And so you ended up running a Deadlands game. Now, did you use one of the pre-existing plot point campaigns? Did you come up with it all yourself?
I came up with it on my own. It was pretty much a simple idea. This train is spawning in the Deadlands, going to another location, and entire towns are going missing where it ends up. The Twilight Legion hired a posse to go check out what's going on inside that train. So it was all kind of self-contained within the train once they got on it.
Oh, very cool. I ran a train. I love train jobs and train missions. They're sort of the perfect bottle episode for a role-playing game, and also no one minds being on rails once they get on the train. They all sort of accept that. I did one for Savage Rifts, looking right at you, John Doom. I run it in Torg. It is a very classic. It's this, the second episode of Firefly was the train job, right? Where I mean, it's a very classic Western thing. So let's talk about Deadlands. So obviously, you went from Cthulhu Tech to Deadlands as your game of choice for running this on your channel. What drew you about Deadlands that made you say this is the one that I want to stream?
Well, as I kind of mentioned, part of it was I was running it for James as well, because James is a forever GM. He GMs like 3 games a week. His schedule's insane. Like, I'll be quite frank. So I wanted to run it for him, but also Westerns aren't something I necessarily had touched a lot, and I'm one of those people. I like to try new things. So there was part of that. The horror aspects of Deadlands is something I'm much more familiar with. I personally love crafting horror stories and the like. So
Aha. Was that a pun intended or not intended? You love crafting horror stories? Yeah. I'm coming from Onyx Path. It seems like a fairly solid matchup.
yeah, one. Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
But yeah, the horror elements. It's one of those things you have to be a little careful about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have the right group, I haven't found a story that does better, a genre of story.
Yeah. Yeah. I love horror stories. I love reading horror. I love running horror. I love watching horror. So it does take a special group to buy in. I think even more so than like a regular game, because with horror, the players have to willingly set aside not just their sense of disbelief, but sort of that distance between themselves and the characters, right? They have to be willing to be vulnerable and be scared. So it takes a real special group to do something like that.
Absolutely. And there's some players that it just won't work for, but as soon as you find them, I sincerely recommend running a game.
Oh yeah. I could talk about tips and tricks for running horror games all night, but did you have any good, so that was the premise of your Deadlands game. Did you have any good horror moments that you can share where you really got the group's tension level up, or they were sweating, or you really got that moment?
There were a few situations where one of the very first encounters they had on the train were with when they entered the train, I had rather than it just being a standard transition, oh, they walk through a door, I had it kind of pull them through the doors. That way I could kind of disorient the player and the character. And then I placed them next to, it was a two-person game. I placed them next to essentially a doppelganger of the other player. And then I started playing on that a little bit. And
oh, wonderful.
One of the players was getting very confused, and that's generally how you want to roll. If you can start getting the players off center a little bit, things start moving with a little bit of grease, so to speak.
Yeah, I was asked what my number one sort of GMing tip for running horror is, and for me, there's this, in most role-playing games, there is this agreement between the players and the GMs that whatever the GM tells you is 100% neutral information, right? That my job is to be completely objective. And I'm like, in a horror game, that's not true. I will flat out lie to you about what you see. I will lie to you about what you hear. Like, you don't have to give players accurate sensory information. Or when you flip it, you see somebody standing over there, you think he's drawing a gun on you, and they react, and then they see, oh, it's just a cloak thrown over a water spout, and that, oh, well, then they start jumping. They stop jumping at everything, and that's once you've got enough misdirection out there. Yeah, confusion and misdirection. Those are kind of the good elements to have around the table for a good horror experience.
Yeah, the very first thing my players realize is especially when I'm doing horror games, is I'm an unreliable narrator.
So Phantom Existence says they're going to try and run their first real horror adventure one shot this Halloween. Well, good luck. Like, I think everyone needs to at least try a horror game at least once. And Savage Worlds, East Texas University, Holler, Deadlands, most of these have horror baked right into the setting.
I mean, even if you wanted to go a little offbeat, I believe riffs you could do some pretty
Oh,
nasty things with too.
at the very least, body horror. Yeah, Pine Box Middle School, Tink. Good catch on that as well. So, what was the thing that sort of surprised you most? What was like the mechanic? What part of Savage Worlds did you find as a GM that you really enjoyed in running this Deadlands adventure?
I don't know if this might be a controversial take, but I actually really liked the swinginess of it. There were moments where you were like, where specifically you will see it in I believe it's the fourth and third to last episodes, where everybody's living on a prayer, honestly, with house, because you will hear it multiple times in that session. The two players are absolutely flabbergasted because I'm acing like 10, 15 times a roll.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Roll 20 was just like, hey, let's have him ace 10 times on one roll. And we're staring at the dice numbers going, this is not good.
This is not good. Well, and I love that you ran it for two players, because for me, I think the key for a good horror game is a small group, right? Because the more people you have, the more chance you have that people are going to be sitting around, not being invested, making, side comments, which is fine, but it breaks the immersion. And I don't think that's a controversial take at all. The swinginess is one of it's not a bug. I see people bring it up on the Reddit thread. It's so swingy, and most people are like, that's not a bug. It's a feature of Savage Worlds. Full Metal Dragon said, Holler is a very cool setting, and I would agree with that. I've got mine. Let me see if I did this right. Haha, I got my lefts and rights correct. Always weirds me out when I try and point to something behind me on stream, because I inevitably pick the wrong hand and my brain refuses to catch up with me. Yes, Savage Goose, we embrace the swinginess here in the Savage universe. So you wrapped up Deadlands. It's going to go live on the 15th. Let me know when it goes live. We'll post the playlist, and I'll put an article up on Savage Universe just reminding everybody, hey, this is starting. Here's the release schedule. Here's the overview of the game again. Any more Savage Worlds in the future of the Domain Gaming?
Oh, absolutely. I'm already... Now, this is a mini series. Generally, my longer running series are 24 to 25 episodes.
Okay.
I've already flat out stated Savage Worlds Deadlands is going to be a main series.
Awesome.
I haven't got a schedule worked out for that. I plan on a shorter release, though. I'm also looking at doing riffs in the relatively near future. The conversion that I mentioned for Cthulhu Tech is also on the table. And in the back of my head's rattling something around for a Warhammer Fantasy.
Oh, man. I mean, Warhammer Fantasy is already super swingy, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever played 2nd or 4th edition. It can you can very easily go from I'm fine to, oh God, where's my leg? in like a single hit. So Savage Goose says, you're going to put that in your GM tip video for the new Savage Worlds players. Embrace the swinginess. Yes. Savage Goose. And this is a good time to point this out. When you get that live, go to Savage Universe, send me an email. My email's at the bottom of the Savage Universe page. It's info@savageuniverse.com. It's pretty easy. Let me know if you guys are doing videos, blogs, podcasts, actual plays, or you have new products coming out. We're in Swagtember, and I'll get to that kind of at the end of this video. But if you have, a new release, let me know. It's my job to bring you on Savage Universe, to write articles, to put it on the calendar, to make sure that everyone in the Savage fandom knows what cool things are going on in the universe. Full Metal Dragon says, mix Deadlands with riffs. I mean, that's New
Lost
West
Colony.
And Spirit West, Lost Colony as well. Yeah, you get all of that goodness kind of mashed up together. So let me ask you this, Ian. You've been streaming for a while. What differences? So maybe some people are here watching either now live or later when this goes up on YouTube, and they're like, "Man, I'd love to stream my Savage Worlds game, but I don't even know what that may entail." For you, what's the big? If you had a piece of advice to give GMs going, "Hey, I'm going from a table to a stream," what was kind of the biggest challenge or biggest, like, I didn't know what I didn't know before I started about being a streaming GM?
Ooh, uh, okay. So my advice would be you. It almost sounds like cliche advice, but it is definitely talk to your players about it,
Yeah.
because I've had players that were just there to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have other people, like his name's Live Spark Jack on my channel. He is there to live a story and put on a show. There is a little bit of a difference in the mentality.
Yeah.
For my players, I do try to keep it as much of, hey, you're just showing up to play a game,
Yeah.
because I handle all the back end stuff and all that. I just expect them to show up and engage in the game. And some people, there's not necessarily anything wrong with it. They just want to get together and throw some dice around. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But when you're doing a show, it usually requires a little bit more. So talk with your players.
Yeah.
Session zero becomes even more important at this point, because now not only are you talking about your standard game stuff, but you're also talking about specific rules that you want for the channel, and things of that nature. Session zero's triply even more important now.
All right. Well, Ian, any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to share? I'm going to do a little plug for Swag Timber, but like anything
No,
you would want to.
at this moment, I just want to thank you for having me on. I look forward to creating more content. As stated, I have a few other ideas for Savage Worlds, and I'm probably going to add more to it as more supplements come out. I'm still waiting for the horror compendium and the sci-fi compendium, because
Yeah.
I need to browse those a little bit.
The horror one is fantastic. I got the PDF and was reading through that. So I'm going to put your channel back up here again. And let's see here. Savage Goose, you really need to give Savage Riffs a good read through. I thoroughly enjoy Savage Riffs. It's actually what brought me into the Savage arena, if you will. And John's saying that he's looking forward to watching your Deadlands AP. So we're in September, and in September, the guys at the unofficial Savage Worlds Discord do a Swag Timber event, and Swag Timber is a month to celebrate the anniversary of the Swag program going live on Drive-Thru. Thanks, Phantom Existence.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lunatic Design agrees with me too. So if you go to, let me pull this up here, because links aplenty for everyone. If you go to Drive-Thru, if you follow this link here, this is Swagtember 5, The Bundle Strikes Back, which, let me just say, is a great, it's what I would have named it had I had a chance to name this bundle. And it is a large number of swag products on Drive-Thru. It's all members of the unofficial Savage Worlds Discord server, and you get over $100 worth of products for $30. And it's just some of the people in this bundle I've had on the show to talk about the products that are in this bundle. It's one of the great things about being a Savage Worlds fan is the community is constantly giving back to itself with great products on the swag program. So this Thursday on Savage Universe, sadly, we're not having any swag stuff. We're going to be talking with the mind behind Odysseys and Overlords, Savage Worlds setting that is on Kickstarter right now that has Cripwright, who is usually in the chat. He did some work for that as well. And then starting on the 14th, every Savage Universe stream for the rest of the month of Swagtember will have at least 2, if not 3 or 4 or 5 Swag Guild members who are going to be talking about their experience with Swag, advice on if you want to start publishing on Swag, what you want to do, and talking about their products. So if you've thought about being part of Swag and want to know where to start, this is a great month to tune into Savage Universe at our normal time at 7 Eastern on Thursdays. So John said Stargate brought you to Savage Worlds. That's interesting. You're going to tell me that story. So also there's going to be anyone is going to Gamehole Con. There's going to be a big Savage presence there. I will be there. I'll be running Doomguard demos. You should totally feel free to come and hang out and learn to play Doomguard. But Savage Matrix says the Deadlands Reloaded cover art is what got you. Yeah, with is that the one with the Harrowed with the revolver kind of lined up in profile?
I think so.
I think that's the one that it is. Let me know if I'm remembering the right one. And Savage Goose, right? Why is there no Savage World Stargate? Yep. All right. Well, Ian, thanks for taking some time out to just chat about your game, chat about your channel, and chat about Savage Worlds with me. No
problem. And as stated, keep tuned because I'm going to be bringing more Savage Worlds guaranteed.
Awesome. Shoot me an email when those go live, and we'll make sure that we let everyone know, get it on the calendar, make sure it's updated going forward. So, all right, everyone, until next time, I hope you guys have a great start to your week. If you're in the U.S., that you had a great Labor Day weekend. Get out there and play some Savage Worlds this week, and may all your dice ace. Until next time, have a good one.